episode 25 of Operator Syndrome. We're talking about Steve's return from the Gulf War or Operation Desert Storm, Desert Shield and Desert Storm, as a Navy SEAL. So when we last left off, um, you won the war single handedly. You'd won the war. And what I wanted to talk about today to start us off today was about coming back home and what that was like because um,
Yeah.
that must have been an interesting time because post Vietnam, we all know what it was like for those
Yeah.
folks who had come back from Vietnam, and some would say that after the Gulf War, there was maybe maybe not an overcorrection. It was well deserved. You all had done some good work really quickly, and put down a bad guy, some bad guys doing something they shouldn't have done. There was a ticker tape parade. There were all kinds of things going on. But for you specifically, as a SEAL, very few SEALs got to participate in that operation. You were
Yeah.
one of those folks, one of those platoons that got to participate in that. And I'm just wondering what that was like for you all coming back to a nation that was extremely proud of you and had a lot of gratitude for the work you'd done. And that's one thing, but I'm really interested to know how the rest of the SEALs, how the rest of the folks in the teams received you all coming back from that conflict when a lot of them didn't get to go.
Yeah. Well, as is probably known, we did, when we returned, we had, unlike, it made me sad, and it still makes me sad. I always try, if I meet a Vietnam vet, I'd always try to thank them for their service and just say, man, thank you for serving, because they got spit on, cussed at. I mean, it was a different time, and I can't wrap my head around it really, because how could you say what you want politically this way or that way, but a warrior for our nation is a hero, on any level, just the willingness to sign and be willing to go abroad, to put oneself in harm's way. So anyway, when we got back, it was the polar opposite. It was like a new World War II return. I mean, we landed at North Island Naval Air Station, which, by the way, I saw the new Top Gun. I know the Top Gun school is now at North Island. And I was like, whoa, right there on Coronado. Anyway, so we landed there, and it was, oh man, I mean, a sea of people. Of course, a lot of family members. Mine were not there. They were on the East Coast. I was just single. So there wasn't anybody really to greet me that I remember, other than a couple buddies. I had some buddies who were there, but I'm talking about people with flags, wearing desert cami tops, like girls with desert cami tops. And it was crazy. It was like they just cheered when we got off the plane and walked, over to where they were. We met them, our families and friends, and it was just, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I didn't expect this, but it was like they were going to make darn sure we felt the hero's welcome when we returned. Like I said, it made me feel bad. It really made me feel bad for the Vietnam guys, because I think there was a collective idea that we're going to not do this the wrong way this time when our boys and girls come home. Anyway, but also with the return, and Patrick, you might want to speak to this on your return from your rotations. There's a real weird ambivalence you go through when you get back, because seriously, man, we lived in some, I mean, it wasn't World War I type conditions at all, but it was crappy. It was, we might take, and when I say take a bath, it's sometimes where we were relocated, we would take, it was called a water buffalo, a big truck, a tank of water. And, it's cold. It just poured over our heads, scrub up, rinse off, freezing cold, sponge bath off. I mean, once a week, twice a week, we didn't care. We're just a bunch of stinky guys, and living with nothing. And that's hey, that's nothing unique to the SEAL. That's every troop, every infantryman and Marine and in the military. You just don't have much. You have your equipment. You might have a book or two, a care package occasionally from home, man, I love coffee. I'm a coffee whore, and we didn't have. If I got one canteen cup of warm Taster's Choice instant, oh, that was that was great. So it's stuff like that. So lean and mean, and we didn't even really think about it. We didn't whine about it or bitch about it. It was just the way it was, and you deal with it. And we ate MREs for 7 months. I mean, occasionally, occasionally, like maybe once a month or twice a month, we would be able to make an excursion to like a bigger supply area where they had hamburgers or hot dogs or something. And that was just like Christmas, man. It was like, oh boy, a hot hamburger, a cheeseburger. Even if it wasn't hot, it was something other than an MRE. So anyway, blah, blah, blah. So when I got back to the States, it was I remember going to a shopping mall in San Diego and just being it kind of made me have a sick feeling, like there's so much stuff, so many choices, when I had almost a year of no choices. It was, here's what you're going to do today, that I kind of felt nauseous. I'm like dizzy, kind of, that, whoa, what is this world, man? And it took me a while to adjust, and I'm back to normal. I go to stores
Right.
now, and it's no big deal. There was actually a scene, and it's the movie is kind of hokey, but in the Hurt Locker, where he comes home and he's in a grocery store and he's just looking at all these cereals, and he just like, bam, he hits the side. He's just like, I just want to be back downrange doing the one singular focus thing. And that, I think that a lot of veterans struggle with that when they return home. And this is maybe a nod to our operator syndrome idea here, that we struggle in a lot of ways. So it's not just elite units, it's anybody who's been there downrange, living in less than desirable conditions for a long time, and you come home and it's, you kind of almost feel like you don't fit in or you don't get it. So if you're out there listening and you can relate, well, that's how I was feeling. Okay, I got over it. As to the other SEALs, yeah, there was, I don't think there was any overt comments by guys that like, man, you guys suck because you got to go to the Gulf War. I mean, what are you going to say? We did our job, and if they were in our shoes, they would have done it.
Right.
But there was a lot, I could tell there was some angst, and part of it was because there were guys years and years senior to me. I was an E5. Well, I back up. I was an E4 when I returned, and I was promoted to E5 soon thereafter, which was like a sergeant in the Army, petty officer, second class in the Navy. And then the executive officer who had just come from Dev Group, he was, in fact, he was in another book I was reading recently, working with a group called Ground Branch over downrange, Smethers, Commander Smethers. And he said, well, Watkins, you're going into training department. And I guess, well, he was in connection with my platoon commander, who gave him a brief on how we'd done and what all we'd done. And I was already a category 1 sniper by that time. That was the SODIC, the school I went to, sniper school, which is another story sometime. So I had the credentials. I was a good shot, right? I was a decent shot. And so they put me as head lead instructor of assaults division at Team 5. And I was 24 years old, still a young guy, and only 2 full platoon deployments at that time. And that's not, I'm no longer a new guy. I'm feet on the ground SEAL now, full bore. But there were a lot of guys who had had 3, 4, 5, 6 platoons who were like, now I'm in training department. They were there too, doing other things. And now I'm made the lead assaults division instructor. And some of them fell under me. And so they're just like, there was this sense, it wasn't spoken by anybody, but it was in the air that, damn it, now you're the guy with a combat action ribbon I got a Navy achievement, which is not a very high ranking medal. I mean, people get them for reorganizing a file cabinet. I got one for going 40 miles behind enemy lines with a Valor, but I had a V on it. So I got it for a combat operation. So yeah, so they're other than the Vietnam era guys, nobody was walking around with combat action ribbons or V's for any of their medals.
Is
So
that is if I can
yeah,
ask a quick question? So I'm guessing it was a combination of your aptitude and also your combat experience. And I think that's what you're saying is
yeah,
you felt like having that combat experience is something that as an organization they were rewarding. They were
yeah.
saying combat experience is important to us and it gets you things like this. For the other folks in your platoon,
Mhm.
um, did you see similar I don't know if reward is the right word, but did you see their combat experience highly prized as well? Like, did you see them maybe get position? Was that sort of like a similar trend for the folks who had gone over and got to fight in Desert Storm?
Yeah, it was. And they didn't all, another guy, Rick, also went to training. He was fresh back from Desert Storm. He came from SEAL Team 1 or 3, I can't remember, to 5, but he was put right into training. And the two of us were both sent to SFARTETC, which I'll talk about too. Um, the other guy, a lot of the other guys were junior even to us. They went in, but it was like whatever deal they wanted, whatever school they wanted, they got it. And I mean, one guy went to the cool, like it was a Secret Service evasive driving school. Another guy went to a dirt bike course, like the
Nice.
Marine off-road dirt bike course. So guys were just getting deals left and right. Other guys just wanted to go in another platoon and roll. A lot of our new guys all just rolled into next platoons because it was all a matter of getting platoons under your belt, but they could pretty much hand pick the platoon they wanted to go to. So yeah, it was a good deal time for those of us from the Gulf War.
And that says something about the organization. The
Yeah,
organization was, and if they weren't saying it outright, they
right.
were saying, "This is what we value. We value combat experience, and to put you all in the training department, and to put you all in high positions in the training department." Was
Yeah,
saying that this is these there are what you learned on the ground. We want that to spread throughout your team to the folks who don't have that experience. So
no
that
doubt.
says something about the organization. So I'll give some props to the SEAL teams here.
Yeah. Hey, thanks, man. Yeah, no, yeah. They really did take care of their own. I mean, at least Team 5. I was only at Team 5, and I only ever wanted to be at Team 5. I will get into other things in the future, but they really did take care of us. And and I was meritoriously promoted to E5 because I was in a rate that I just couldn't. They promoted 2 or 3 people in the entire Navy, parachute riggers, and these were people working on ejection seats. I'd never even seen one of these things other than in A school, so it was just impossible to. I mean, I'm doing other things now. They changed that whole system, so now it's called special operator rating. So you're competing with your peers, which is the way it should be. But anyway, back then. So yeah, good time of good deals. And one of the best good deals I got was I went to SFARTETC. SFARTETC is Special Forces Advanced Reconnaissance and Target Analysis and Exploitation Techniques Course. Thank you. A mouthful. It was, and I think it still is, because I heard it was Sheffield or DJ Shipley on the Mic Drop podcast. One of them was talking about, yeah, I wanted to go to SFARTECH, and they were at Dev Group. So I'm sure that's come light years from when I went. Yeah, it was like back in the old, we were in flight suits with Nomex hoods, and I mean, that's the equipment we used. But so the school was how to, it's an assaulter school, how to take down buildings, room clearance. CQB is what we called it, close quarters battle. So it's room to room. And there was me, myself, and Rick, and we were the only SEALs there. So we got our fair share of pokes. It was mostly Army Special Forces at the school. And then there were 2 Force Recon Marines that attended. And I can't for the life of me remember if there were any Rangers. There were Rangers at SODIC, which was another Special Forces school. So this is at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the big base, big, huge base, where the 82nd Airborne is stationed, and one of the Special Forces groups, but the John F. Kennedy Special Warfare Center, which is the epicenter of Green Beret training, Q course, all that. And it's also where in one of the areas of the base is where CAG is located, the one of the special mission units, the Army Special Mission Unit. So a lot going on in that place. And man, it was a lot of intense training. The first day we were there, guess what? PT test.
Well, you gotta talk about how you all rolled up. You gotta tell the folks how you all rolled up.
Yeah.
Comparing yourself, because this is an Army school.
Yeah.
You said it, but if you didn't pick on it. So it's an Army school. Tell us how the SEALs showed up.
Yeah, we showed up in this. So we didn't even have to stay in barracks on the base. We had a hotel off base. We had a really nice one. It was like a kitchenette, and it was huge. And we had separate rooms. Like Rick had a room, I had a room. And we come in there in tanned to the hilt. I can't remember what month it was. It was early spring. It was like March or April. It was coolish on the East Coast. But San Diego, every day is perfect. We come in there, tan, board shorts, flip-flops, long hair. I mean, longish hair. Definitely not Army standards. And we had rented a Lincoln Town Car. We got upgraded. They rented us a car, and so here we are. And we're like, we got to drive all the way out there, and so we show up, and here's all the Army and the Marine guys are just standing there, looking all trim and proper and in their uniforms, and we come just waltzing in total civvies, and they're just like, who are you guys? So it was cultural clash once again, and I don't know, but the thing is, when we had to do the PT test, Rick was like, because we're going to get a lot of shit at the school, that? And I said, oh yeah. And he goes, we're winning this PT. We're going to outrun everybody in this. And we did. We beat everybody we had to do, and I'm not, I'm bragging a little bit, but we did. We won. I mean, so, hey, look it up. It's in the books. No, he said, we are not losing to these Army guys. And we took off. It was a 3-mile run. It was 1.5 miles down these, if Fort Bragg, it's these sandy roads in pine forests. That's the whole base is like that. So it was and we were good at running in sand, because boy, we cut our teeth on it on the beaches of Coronado. So we could sand run like banshees. And it was, we might have had, we didn't have to wear boots. I think it was running shoes. We just took off. And I remember he goes, because I was a faster runner than Rick. Rick was a big bodybuilder looking dude, but he said, just pace me. I'm gonna keep you in sight. I was like, all right, here we go. Man, we were running so hard because I did not want to lose. It was a pride thing. I mean, it's an internecine pride. Game on. And we got to the end. We got to the turnaround point. I'm like, man, I hope these guys aren't behind it. I never looked back. I thought it was bad luck to look back. Turned around, and there was nobody in sight. I mean, I said, I think we could slow down a little bit, Rick. He goes, good, and so we maybe about a 1/4 mile later, we passed the second fastest dude, and we were just like, I don't know, man, he might be coming on. So we took off again. Anyway, blah blah blah. We had to make our statement, but
I'm gonna assume, on behalf of my army brothers who aren't here to defend themselves, I'm gonna go ahead and assume they were using comment. They're like, why are these SEALs running balls to the wall for this stupid PT test? Like, you just need to pass.
Yeah, that's right.
So on behalf of the Army, I'm gonna assume that's what the thing was. Like, go ahead, They're
Yeah.
SEALs. Let them run themselves out. Let them get tired. It's
Yeah.
better. It'll be better in the long run.
Yeah. That's so funny. Yeah, because our mentality is like always beat your last previous time, and it pays to be a winner. And like we got kicked into us so deeply in buds that, like I say, I still have problems with it to this day. But anyway, yeah, it was fun. We all got a yuck out of it. But yeah, it was a really intense school. And one thing I learned, I always like the Marines. The special forces have a lot of knowledge, man. I mean, they just know a lot. And for those, we've mentioned it briefly before, but the Green Beret, you see Rambo, and you have this idea that they're like the ultimate assaulters, and they can do it. They can do that. A teams can assault for sure, and they do, and they're hard fighters. But their primary mission is what's called foreign internal defense, or FID. Now, that's not just, we can all overlap with these different missions, and Rangers and SEALs can do FID, and we have. But our primary mission, SEALs and Rangers, and this is what brings us really closely together, is that our primary mission is direct action assaults and assaulting. So it's to strike targets. Now, the difference would be we as SEALs fight on a smaller unit, where Rangers are like what I call strike light infantry. They fight on a larger level, and we can get into this and that. So anyway, we at this school we gained a lot of knowledge, and a lot of it was a lot of angles and how to move with a group of guys safely to secure a building. That has all changed. See, that's the funny thing. And back in the day, it was with an eye toward hostage rescue. So you had to shoot very, very accurately. And it was a lot of high pressure, like target. Just the big challenge was you'd go in a room and you had to move together like an orchestra. And you would close off your sectors and clear the room, eliminating hostiles and not shooting friendlies. And so they would have targets that were like a little girl holding a teddy bear, and a guy with a knife like this. And that's kind of old school stuff. Tactics have changed a lot from what I've talking to my friends, SEALs and Patrick, that it's like, okay, if we're not after a hostage here, then why are we in such a hurry to clear the building? Let's just secure the perimeter, and now the ball's in our court, and we'll shoot grenades through the window or whatever. Our recce guys will start popping people or whatever, and that gets into other stuff. But we were doing it. Yeah.
What was this? And we talked about this before we started, but I really nerd out on '90s era special operations, like you said, flight suits and Nomex balaclavas. What MP5s? What kind of equipment were you all using at the school?
That's an interesting question, because we at the SEAL teams, we were using MP5s, which is a Heckler and Koch 9mm submachine gun. It's really accurate because Heckler and Koch developed something called delayed roller locking assembly. So the previous generation of submachine guns was like the Uzi and other types of, and they weren't as accurate. And these things, because the delayed roller locking assembly, it shot like a bolt action, but shot rapidly. So you had the accuracy of a bolt action with rapid capability. The SEALs always used MP5s early on. Now that's all changed. And I made a case to the executive officer of SEAL Team 5 when I returned. I'll get into that. But we always used MP5s because one of our main missions was shipboarding. So we would scuba dive in with closed circuit scuba, put a caving ladder up on the boat, the ship, and climb up in squad formation, form a perimeter, and take the ship over, or take it from pirates, or even take an enemy ship if necessary. And we use 9mm because when you're clearing an internal section of a Navy ship, there's steel bulkheads, and you don't want supersonic round. I mean, really high velocity rounds like an AR flying down those bulkheads, because they just go every which way. You wanted to a more controllable bullet, let's say. And because of that, we got really good at what we call double tapping, which was 2 to the body, 1 to the head. It was like bop, bop, bop. So we got really good at that. Was our shooting style, because with a 9mm, I mean, that's 9mm is a 9mm. It's not
Right.
a 5.56 round, which is going to inflict a lot more wound cavity when it hits. It's going to cause a lot more damage. I mean, it's a serious round to be hit with. So when we got to SFARTAETC, we were wearing flight suits, Danner boots, Nomex hoods, bought Kevlar, the old school Kevlar with plates, and that kind of kit, you would call it. It wasn't really even a kit back then. It was more, I don't know, a hodgepodge of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what we were doing. But the Army was using cars. What I call them car 15s, the short M16s, the short versions. I don't know what generation that was, but it's an M16 rifle that's shorter than the longer M4s. Was it? When in my day, we called them M4s.
Yeah. Well, we had M4. So that was like in Vietnam, they had I think they call it the CAR 15 AR.
Yeah,
Everyone knows AR 15. This is different what he's talking
yeah,
about. It's like an
yeah.
old school shortened M16. I think they had a much shorter barrel,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, a lot shorter barrel.
Yeah.
And an
The adjustable
expandable
butt stock.
stock.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
butt stock was the big difference from
yeah,
the M16A1 or whatever.
right, right. It was a much shorter version of the M16, so
Right.
you could carry it when you're clearing a building. You don't want a big old long thing sticking out because
Yeah.
it's tight spaces and getting around doors, and you want something a little more compact.
Mm-hmm.
But the Army was already using the 5.56 millimeter, which is the M16 round, the standard M16 round. Now you can get them on all kinds of platforms and all kinds of different calibers. But Rick, I talked to these instructors and I'm like, man, that makes a lot more sense. Because, and when I returned to SEAL Team 5, I told the executive officer, Smethers, the one who sent me there, the dev group operator, I said, we should be using these cars to do clearance. We shouldn't be using basically a 9-pound pistol, or not. I don't think it was 9 pounds, but it was like 4 or 5 pounds. I was joking about it. I'm like, what if we get pinned down coming in to a target? Now we've got pistols, basically 9mm, albeit they're MP5s. They're more accurate than a pistol. You can shoot a little bit longer and it's got a better sight radius, but you're dinking away with 9mm rounds when you need a little more punch. And so I was like, in a kill house, I said, okay, if we're doing shipboarding, let's do the MP5s. But if we're taking down a target, like a hard target on land, we have no business with MP5s. I mean, maybe a recon dude might need one, but even then, I don't even think so. And that's all of this has changed light years. But I was the first one to make the case at SEAL Team 5 when I got back from SFARTAETC. But the other story was, man, our final training exercise at SFARTAETC. The final training exercise is when everybody's trained. It's the last operation you're going to do, and you're being evaluated by the cadre. And two of the guys on the cadre were from CAG. They were Delta operators who were there teaching this stuff. And I always pinch myself that I got to learn from, the best at the time. And we did our final training exercise, which was a kill house. A kill house is it's a structure that is designed to be, you could shoot through it. And the walls are secure, so bullets won't go through walls because you're using live ammo. And there's these targets set up. So it was on the CAG compound, a place called Range 19. I think everybody knows this. And it was crazy because we had a bit. I mean, there was at least 40 of us in the class, in my class. And the commanding officer from SEAL Team 5 at the time, Commander Tilley, flew out to watch the FTX. Okay, my commanding officer, Rick and my commanding officer, is watching, and then we're still being. We could fail this. We could totally fail this thing, and it was a big operation. I mean, there were a lot of moving parts. So guess who they made the ground force commander? I think they did it just to try. I don't know, just to amp up the pressure on us. They chose yours truly. So I'm in charge of this whole takedown. A ground force commander is the one who's coordinating everything. I don't know. I don't know how. It's like a dream because I'm like, geez, I want to be anything but the ground force commander. Just give me a gun and let me just clear a room.
Right.
Because you got stuff coming in, quick reaction forces, you got all the stuff you got to coordinate. Radios have to be on the nuggets. It's really stressful. Well, we pulled it off. It was successful. We passed, and hoo-yah. But anyway, that was my SFARTETC story, and we flew home, and then from then on, I was working in training department until we had a mishap, which turned another page, let's say.
So just a couple small things before we wrap up here. Was breaching a part of the school as well?
Sure was.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure it was ballistic, right? So for those who don't know, that's like using a shotgun to open a door. Explosive breaching was a part of it as well.
Yep, we had explosive. We also had shotgun breaching. Yep.
And one of the questions I had, but I guess your last story answered it. It wasn't just about the individual shooting performance. That was obviously a big part of it, but orchestrating, planning and coordinating in the moment was a big part of it, right? So
that's right.
That's my so for you, for the checkoff was, as an individual, can he perform these tasks, and then can he plan the tasks, and then can he coordinate the movements even inside of the kill house?
Right.
So that way you're not shooting at each other through walls and this and that and breaching and all that. Okay, cool. Yeah,
that kind of also goes back to the Army doctrine that you were talking about with Ranger School. You're being trained as a leader. You're being trained to lead on some level, where and that came through. We were being trained on every level that we could oversee the whole thing. We could work as a single or a part of a team as a shooter, whatever. And that was kind of a little bit different from the way we were used to at the SEALs. We would plan stuff on any level of our rank, but the overseer would always be the platoon commander or the ground force commander or the unit commander, bigger level. So this was like a real eye-opener for me, and made probably a good one. I don't know. I mean, it was a good experience. It was just a lot of pressure. So, but that was a little bit of a cultural difference where I was like, I thought the highest ranking guy would be the ground force commander, because in the SEALs, that's the way we would do it. It wouldn't just be any old schmo.
Well, when we talked about this one time, and you had mentioned that you were the ground force commander for the FTX, that's so Army. That's such an Army thing to do, to take
E5.
To take someone you wouldn't expect. The obvious answer is, okay, we'll choose some officer for it. And maybe you do choose an officer, especially for a big FTX. Maybe you would have chosen a more junior officer though, for that though. But it's a very Army thing to just pluck someone lower in rank to assume those positions, or to start off the exercise with who you would expect, and then notionally kill them off, and then have someone have to do the one up drill. That's such an Army thing everywhere you go. So and then you came back, and then you were doing the assaults lead job. Last question before we wrap it up. So at the time, don't know how it is now, but at the time, did that school, SFARTETC, that carried weight? Did that carry a decent amount of weight within the SEAL community? So when you came back, did that help bolster your credentials? So now you're a combat vet, you got that experience, you're a good guy in general, but now you've also been to SFARTETC. Did that sort of plus you up all the way in terms of your creds?
For sure. Yeah, for sure. Especially in the eyes of the leadership. Like, they knew it was a significant school. Some of the guys are just like, what was that school you went to? And it's like, man, it was a serious school, dude. That, like, it's not riding dirt bikes with the Marines. It's like a serious assault school. but the brass knew it. And I think that's what really more counted as far as your career, where you're going, and that kind of stuff. And it's also what led to, not after I did my third platoon, which we may get into in the future, that when I got back, Smethers, who was still the commander, said, you're interviewing for Dev Group. They're out here from the East Coast, and you're interviewing. I'm like, excuse me? Like, really? Is that an order? He goes, not really, but yeah, you're going to interview. So it led to, and I think being at SFARTETC was a big part of that. I think he, there were about 3 or 4 of us that he handpicked and said, I want you guys to interview, whether you like it or not. So anyway,
Okay.
so it led to other things. Mm-hmm.
That's a good tease for future episodes. So we will wrap it up here, and we'll catch you on the next one.